Now we are looking at another poem, The Leader and the Led, by the renowned poet Ni Osundare. The poem talks about leadership in the African society. It's a narrative poem and it's also known as a fable. It explores leadership in the African society or in the African community. It addresses the process of choosing a leader from among the animals. Actually, the poet uses animals. Okay, he uses animals as characters, as representatives of the human community to discuss the tussle of power in the African society. Now let's go back to the poem to read the poem. It says, the lion stakes his claim to the leadership of the pack, but the antelopes remember the ferocious power of his paws. The hyena says the crown is meant for him, but the impalas shudder at his lethal appetite. The giraffe claims a place in the front, but the eyes are too far from the ground. When the zebra says it's his right to lead, the pack points to the duplicity of his tribes. The elephant trudges into the power tussle, but its colleagues dread his trampling feet. The warthog is too ugly, the rhino too riotous. The pack thrashes around like a snake without a head. Our need calls for a hybrid of habits, proclaims the forest sage. A little bit of a lion, a little bit of a lamb. Tough like a tiger, compassionate like a doe. Transparent like a river, mysterious like a lake. A leader who knows how to follow, followers mindful of their right to lead. Once again, the poet uses, Ni Osundare uses this poem to criticize the African communities, especially Nigeria, to criticize the tussle for leadership or power in the African society. How it discusses or it looks at how African leaders struggle for power, how they scramble for power, how they look for power for their own selfish interest. In doing this, he uses animals to represent the African leaders. He first of all starts by saying the lion stakes his claim. The lion being the self-acclaimed lion of the king of the jungle, stakes his claim, meaning that the lion wants to take the leadership by his own might. So he stakes his claim to the leadership of the pack. So the lion wants to take all the power, take everything that comes with leadership, simply because it believes that it is the king of the jungle, and by virtue of being the king of the jungle, the leadership should fall on him or it. Then another line says, but the antelope remembers the ferocious powers of his paws. Now, in doing so, he's bringing out the African leaders, the leaders and their weaknesses or their flaws. How these leaders, in trying to stake their claims for the sake of leadership, they forget their own flaws. Now, their followers or the people that they are tussling the power with actually bring out their flaws with them. It's their flaws that disqualifies them for this leadership. Okay? Now, it says the antelope remembers the ferocious power of his paws, meaning that if this lion is left or is allowed to lead, the lion could actually tear its leaders apart because its paws are ferocious, meaning that this lion is greedy for power, and because of its greed, it could trample upon its leaders in the quest for power. So this can also be likened to African leaders who are ferocious when it comes to their quest for leadership, when it comes to their quest for power. They can do anything, they can go to any length to ensure that they are the ones in power. Then we also have another line says, the hyena says the crown is meant for him. But the impala, that is another set of the community, remember and shudder at his lethal appetite, meaning that this hyena is always hungry. So the other set of the community remember his own flaw. What's the flaw of the hyena? That it's always eating. So if this hyena eats all the time, it is possible that the hyena can even eat us. That's what the impalas are saying. It is possible that the hyena can eat us because of his quest for power. The giraffe claims a place in the front. Now, what is the giraffe's flaw? His own flaw is that his neck is too tall. So because his neck is too tall, he will be so bothered about what is happening up there and forget about those on the ground. It says, but the eyes are too far from the ground, meaning that because his neck is long, he may be concerned with other things, maybe the problem of the elites, without actually looking at those at the grassroots level. He continues and says, when the zebra says it's his right to lead, the pack points to the duplicity of his tribes. The word duplicity there is metaphor for the nature of this person that is tussling for power. How? If you say that someone has duplicity of stripes, mean that it could mean that this zebra is dubious. So the pack is questioning the dubious nature of the zebra, meaning that he is not to be trusted. So because of the duplicity of his tribes, they can't trust him. So it's possible that the zebra has a questionable character. Then we have another animal. The elephant trudges into the power tussle. So the elephant thinking that maybe because of the body of its the size of its body can stake his own claim. Now his colleagues try to throw him off. What do they say? That they dread the trampling of his feet, meaning that they are now bringing his own flaw to the fore, trying to use that to disqualify him. We have another animal, the warthog. Now what is his own flaw? He's too ugly. He's not fit for the position. The rhino is too riotous, always looking for trouble, always wanting to fight. We could also use this to compare to some sections of the society, or you can even look at the Nigerian context. Some sections of the Nigerian political scene. If you're looking at the geopolitical zones, we can use these animals to compare or to liken them to the geopolitical zones of the country. Now, moving on, and the pack trashes around. Now, because they cannot agree, they keep fighting one another. And this fight leads to chaos. They fight like a snake without a head. So they keep tussling themselves, tossing each other around like a snake without a head. So we have a community of people who want to be leaders, but there is no leader. Then comes the voice of the wise one, the forest sage. What does the forest sage say? The forest sage tries to bring unity. The forest sage tries to bring them to reason. The forest sage here is the voice of reason. The voice that tells them that they can work together, but in working together, it means that they are going to tap on their strengths and not their weaknesses, bring their strength together and work with one another. The forest sage says, a little bit of a lion, meaning that the lion can bring his own side, his own strengths. A little bit of a lamb, the lamb can bring his own nature, maybe his humble nature. Then tough like a tiger, compassionate like a doe, transparent like a river, mysterious like a lake, a leader who knows how to follow. So the forest sage is the voice of reason that tries to tell these leaders that instead of leading for their own selfish interests, instead of using their own powers to lead, they should lead in such a way that they consider the interests of the masses. They consider the interests of the people that they are leading. It says, a leader who knows how to follow. So for one to be a leader, one has to learn how to follow. Followers who are mindful of their right to lead. So this is a call to the African nations, to African societies on how to lead, on how to stand up for their rights, and how to ensure that there is unity when it comes to the political scene. Now let's look at the devices or the thematic analysis of this poem. First, let's look at the setting. The setting of the poem is a forest where the animals gather to appoint a new leader for their community. If we are looking at the setting could also be said to be symbolic in the forest. In the forest, there is no leader. It's just like a jungle. And when you're in the jungle, it's all man to himself. So, looking at this setting, the setting could also be said to be symbolic. The poet uses this setting to bring to bear what the community, the African community is like, or what the African political scene looks like. It's as if it's a jungle. Every man to himself. Everyone tries to look out for himself alone and not for the interest of others. Then it says the setting symbolizes a society seeking direction and order, and the animals represent different characters and potential leaders. Who are the characters in this poem? The characters are the lion, the hyena, giraffe, zebra, elephant, rhino, and warthog. These animals present their claims to leadership, each with their unique traits. So these animals have their own unique traits. They stake their own claims, thinking that with their own unique traits, they can do it all. But in the course of doing that, their colleagues keep disqualifying them by looking at the downside of their traits, how their traits could lead to their own downfall. Let's look at the themes of the poem. We have leadership contest. The animals announce their interest in becoming the leader and they stake their claims to the position. The poem describes the reasons why each candidate believes they are suitable for leadership. So it's like when a leadership candidate vies for a position and tries to read his own manifesto. So in doing so, your colleagues will always look for loopholes to use that to disqualify you. So this whole thing that happens in the forest is like a leadership contest, which can also be likened to what happens in the human society. We have the flaws of the candidates. Now, what the poet is trying to bring to bear here is that for any leader that tries to indicate interest to lead, there is always a flaw. The animals represent the followers expressing their doubts and reservations about each candidate. So each candidate, no matter who you are, you have your own flaws. So it says here, the fear the lion's ferocity, the hyena's lethal appetite, and the giraffe's inability to see things from the ground. So for each of these leaders, there is always a flaw. However, their flaws, their strengths can actually outweigh their flaws if they come together and work as one. And then we have the forest sage intervention. That's the forest sage here is a neutral character that seems to be the voice of reason and then makes a suggestion on how to choose an ideal leader. So the forest sage says that for them to choose a leader, the leader should have a combination of the various qualities of each of the contestants. So the qualities of the lion, he should have the qualities of a lion, the qualities of hyena, the qualities of the giraffe, the elephant, the rhino, the warthog, and all that. Now, all these qualities will come together to make a good or an ideal leader, if only they would agree to work in harmony. Let's go further to the themes that are explored in the poem. We have the themes of failed leadership. If we look at the poem criticizes leadership, not just leadership in Africa, then bringing it down, leadership in Nigeria. How people struggle, politicians struggle to or scramble for power. And it also looks at how, even though they have attained this power or they have attained this leadership position, nothing comes out of it, because they all, or some of these politicians, are in it for what they can get out of it. They are all in it for their selfish interest. So it also looks at, another theme to look at is power struggle. Each of the contestants are struggling for power, which is not supposed to be. There's no need for them to struggle for power. Instead, there should be a selection. If they were working in harmony, or if they were working in unity, they would have agreed that, okay, this person can lead us, having assessed a particular person and understood or agreed that this person is okay to lead them. Then we have followership. We have a case of followers. If you look at the community we find ourselves in, or our socio-political scene, we have a case of followers who don't understand their rights. They don't even know that they have the right, or they also have the right to lead. Some of us who are followers, or some people who are followers, actually don't know that they have what it takes to lead, and they have refused to stand up for their rights. So the poem is also a call to the followers, to the supposed followers, that they can also lead if they realize that they have the right to lead, they have the potential, they have what it takes to lead. And then we have the need for participatory democracy and gender inequality. It says here, it serves as a social commentary on leadership challenges in the society. Moving further, it says the poem emphasizes the importance of choosing leaders wisely and the consequences of electing leaders with detrimental qualities. So the poem is warning the society that if we keep on choosing leaders with questionable characters, this is what will happen. It will continue happening, and it will become a vicious cycle. There will always be that scramble, that tussle for power. So it is a call on the society to stand up and to look into leadership, the leadership of the community, to ensure that the leaders that are chosen are the right ones for the citizens. The poem also encourages the practice of participatory democracy and accountability of leaders to their followers. So the poem encourages the society to ensure that each section of the country, or each section of the society, or each geopolitical zone of the society is included. So the poem, The Leader and the Led, is actually a call for participatory leadership or inclusive leadership, a kind of leadership where every section of the society is included. The voices are heard, people's voices are heard, people's opinions are sought, and the interests of the masses are served. So in this case, if you have this kind of society or leadership, there wouldn't be any need for tussle, there wouldn't be any need for struggle, and leaders will be chosen according to merit. Let's look at some poetic devices. In line 16 of the poem, we have like a snake without a head. That is a simile. That also creates an imagery of confusion, like a snake without a head. Imagery of confusion, chaos, and anarchy. So imagine a society without a head. Imagine a society without any form of leadership. There is total anarchy. Alliteration. Alliteration here is used to create sound. For example, in line 4 of the poem, we have pounds of his paws. The P sound is alliterated in pounds and paws. We have far from the ground. The letter F is alliterated in far and from. We have the pack points to. The same sound is alliterated in pack and points. Then we also have hybrid of habits. Imagery. An example of imagery here is we have it in line 6 of the poem, where it says, but the impala shudder at his lethal appetite. What this is actually talking about is how a group is scared of the other group because of what they know it can do. Okay, so it creates that imagery of fear or uncertainty. Then we have, and the pack trashes around. This is also another imagery that is created here. It paints a picture of struggle, it paints a picture of chaos, it paints a picture of anarchy. Another one in line 10, we have the pack points to the duplicity of his tribes. Here, as I mentioned earlier, the duplicity here is metaphorical. It also creates another imagery. It paints another picture in the mind of the reader, a picture of doubt, a picture of uncertainty as well. More poetic devices. We have the use of metaphor in the poem. Actually, the poem itself could be said to be metaphorical because it is built on metaphorical ground. It is used to compare the political scene of the African community. So we can say that the poem on its own is actually a metaphor, a metaphor for the African political scene. Then we have allegory. Allegory, in this case, it is a poem that uses animals to represent human qualities and societal issues. So any work of literature that uses animals to represent human qualities and societal issues is said to be an allegory. Then we have the animal's traits symbolize the characteristics found in real-life leaders and the challenges faced by their followers. Also, the poem is a fable. You can also say that the poem is a fable. A fable is, as you already know, is a work of literature that focuses on, that uses animals to bring out certain issues. So in the case of fable, the difference between allegory and fable, a fable actually uses animals, makes animals talk in a literary work. What is the relevance of the poem to the society? It says here that the leader and the led resonates with the real-world political scenarios, especially in Africa, as has been mentioned earlier, where leadership challenges the need for effective leaders are prevalent. The poem is also a call on the on all the African people, all African citizens, people of Africa, to actively participate, to stand up for their rights and know their rights. Also understand that they have the right to ask for what they need. So now I'll also encourage you to go to the app and look for questions on this topic, on this poem. Try to answer the questions and give us feedback.